Hello, it's April and welcome to Snapdragon Hollow. It has been a long time since I have filmed a book vlog, so I thought I would go ahead and film one today. I thought I would share with you all of the books that I've read so far this year, as well as some of the ones I'm currently reading, as well as the ones that are on my June, July reading list here, my TBR for June and July. So I've got a lot of books here to share with you, and also I've got a nice cup of tea here. A nice cup of Twinings Irish breakfast tea. I love books and tea, and I also love to have a little treat while I'm having my tea with my books here. I think it's just such a fun thing to do. So I've got a special treat that I found that I'd like to share with you today. These are Tunnocks tea cakes here. I love these. I picked these up at World Market a couple of weeks ago, and I've been really excited to have these again. I actually went to World Market sometime around the early part of the year looking for some Tunnocks tea cakes, and they were out. So I was really excited when I went there and they were back in stock, and not only were they in stock of the original Tunnocks tea cakes, but they also had some dark chocolate Tunnocks tea cakes, which I've never had the dark chocolate variety before. I love dark chocolate, so I definitely had to pick some of these up too. If you've never tried these, they're really yummy. They have sort of a marshmallow kind of filling there on top of a cookie coated in chocolate, sort of similar to the pinwheel cookies that we have here in America. And I actually love those too, but I really do enjoy these. They're a special treat on a very low sugar diet, so I like to be kind of picky about my treats. So I'm really excited about these Tunnocks tea cakes. I'm gonna go ahead today with my tea and try some of these dark chocolate Tunnocks tea cakes. So I will open one of those a little bit later and let you know how they are. But before I get into my tea time treat there, I thought that I would start by sharing the books that I've read so far this year. I haven't read very many books this year. I started out the year in a bit of a reading slump. I've definitely gotten out of that reading slump. Something about the lovely summer weather. I just want to read out in the sun and on the beach and things like that. If you follow some of my shorts, I just recently posted a little short video that I made of my recent beach trip and some of the reading that I did there. I hope to create throughout the summer little shorts of where I read and craft and things like that when I'm out in nature, and just share some of the looks at that with you. I'm really new at making shorts, so they're not perfect, but I do enjoy giving you a small glimpse of that. And I'll have to share with you later on in this video a book that I picked up while I was at the beach. I stopped in at a lovely little beach bookstore and picked up a book while I was there. So that was really fun, and I'll share a little bit about that with you later on in the video. But let's go ahead and get started with the books that I've read so far this year and what I thought about them. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Goodreads page here. I do the Goodreads challenge every year. Last year I did not complete my challenge, so I lowered my books back down to reading 50 books this year. Think I will be able to achieve that. But because I started the year in such a reading slump, I am a little bit behind, but I'm pretty sure I will catch up over the summer months. So I thought that I would use this to remember what I rated the books and what I thought about the books. So the first book that I finished up at the beginning of this year, I actually started this around Christmas time and then read through it and finished it up in January. This is Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off by Darcy Hannah. This is a cozy murder mystery, and it is part of the Beacon Bake Shop Mysteries. I have talked about those books in previous book vlogs. It is a newish series for me. This is, let's see, this is the second book in the Beacon Bake Shop Mystery series. I actually started, I think, on like book 4 with the Halloween pick of mine, the Beacon Bake Shop Mystery that she put out for Halloween. And it is a pretty cute series. It's about a woman who buys an old lighthouse and turns it into a bakery. And while she's going about her job of opening up her bakery in this old lighthouse, there is a mystery to solve, which she tends to be pretty good at solving these mysteries along with some other characters in the book. It is, again, a really cute series. She has this cute Newfoundland dog in the series, and I love the setting of the East Coast lighthouse area. I always like that setting. I live on the West Coast, so I really enjoy sometimes reading about the East Coast. I think it's really neat. And this one was a good one. I rated it 4 stars. As far as cozy mysteries go, I think that this has all the elements of a good cozy mystery. I love that it was taking place in the Christmas season. I love reading seasonal cozy mysteries for the different seasons. I like to match them up with the different seasons, and you'll see another one in the books I've read this year too that speaks to that. So Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off, definitely a good one to pick up for Christmas time, or perhaps a Christmas in July read. Then the next book I read in the year, this has been on my list for quite some time. I think it's Louise Erdrich. I'm probably saying that a little bit wrong. This is The Birch Bark House, and this is a really wonderful read. This is a children's chapter book. This is a National Book Award finalist, and I can see why. This is a really wonderful book. This was a book suggested for people who enjoyed the Little House on the Prairie series. This book is about a Native American family, so it follows along a different people group here. It's very fascinating. They live in birch bark houses. They move around seasonally. It talks about some of their customs, how they harvest things, some of their family life. Smallpox sweeps through their village, and it talks through that. And that part is really, really sad. I won't spoil it for you. It is definitely worth a read. The author has a really wonderful way of describing the characters, and you just can visualize the people in this book and visualize the scenery. It is just wonderful. I loved getting a glimpse at the way that these people lived in this historical time. I just thought it was fascinating, and I definitely plan to read the next one in this series. There's a whole series of these books, starting with The Birch Bark House. So if you love Little House on the Prairie and that early American history, or are interested in indigenous cultures, this would definitely be a great one to read. Great one for children to read as well. Although, again, caution, there is some sadness in this book for sure, but I rated this 5 stars. I would definitely recommend this book, and again, look forward to reading more in this series. So The Birch Bark House. And then after The Birch Bark House, that's when I was kind of in a little bit of a slump for reading. I just couldn't find a book that was grabbing my attention, and I was also really, really busy. So I decided to grab a couple of graphic novels and give them a read. I thought that having something fun and quick to read would be really fun and interesting, and it was. The next book I read was The Secret Garden, and this is a graphic novel of The Secret Garden. So you can see it's just got pictures in it here and a small amount of words. I read this in just a couple of hours on one afternoon. It was a lovely little quick thing to read. However, I only gave this one 3 stars, and that was perhaps even being a little bit generous. I really did love the illustrations and the way that the illustrations and the few simple words here told the story, but they did leave out a crucial portion of The Secret Garden, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. I feel like without that backstory, you weren't getting the full story. And I think that with something as classic as The Secret Garden, that telling the whole story, including some of the background in the story, is important to the integrity of the story, so I didn't love that. So as far as graphic novels go, this was a really pleasant thing to read, but again, with them leaving out a good chunk of the beginning part of the story, a lot of the backstory about the main character's time in colonial India, that it kind of just missed the mark a little bit for me. I did love the illustrations again. I did love the way those illustrations brought you through the story, and it was a fun thing to read. And it didn't stop me from trying again with another graphic novel, which you'll see later on in my stack of books here. And it did help to get me out of my reading slump. So if you're in a reading slump, that might be just the ticket, grabbing something easy to read. In the past, I've gotten out of reading slumps by picking up some of my favorite children's literature and giving that a read, which usually just gets me back into the reading mood. So for that, it was good. Otherwise, it is interesting if you're a fan of The Secret Garden. It's definitely interesting to read a graphic novel version. So I would suggest it for that reason. So The Secret Garden, a graphic novel. This is adapted by Mariah Marsden and illustrated by Hannah Luchtefeld. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. But The Secret Garden graphic novel. And next we are back to another Beacon Bake Shop mystery, another cozy mystery here. And again, a seasonal one. This is the one I picked up to read for St. Patrick's Day. This was one of her newer released ones, and I had pre-ordered it. So I was really excited. I love St. Patrick's Day, and I thought that reading a nice cozy mystery during the St. Patrick's season would be really, really fun. And it started out pretty cute, but it wasn't my favorite. It was probably my least favorite so far of the Beacon Bake Shop mysteries. Again, I only rated this a 3 stars. It got kind of slow in the middle there. The plot was a little bit hard to believe for me. There was a lot of leprechaun sort of lore in it. And some of the characters weren't acting like their usual selves. And some of their behavior and dialogue was a little bit annoying in this series. This, again, it's the newest one. I believe there's another one coming out, and I will give it another read, and you will see later that I have one of the only other one that I haven't read in this series to read in my to be read pile as well. So I haven't given up hope at all on the Beacon Bake Shop mystery series. I actually think it's really, really cute. But for me, this one just didn't quite hit the mark. And again, so I gave it a 3 stars. It was an okay mystery. But again, it wasn't my favorite one. So Murder at the Blarney Bash by Darcy Hannah. And then I read one that I just loved. We're back to another children's book here. This has been sitting on my shelf for quite some time to read. I have a box set of all these books by Margaret Henry, or Marguerite Henry. Again, I'm not sure on the pronunciation there. This is Misty of Chincoteague, a classic children's book here about horses. These are about wild horses that live on an island, and people on Chincoteague Island go over and gather horses every year. And these are some special horses here. So this is Phantom and Misty here, 2 very well-known horses. You can even buy Breyer horses in the models of these horses here. They're very well-known. And I was so glad to read this. As children's literature goes, this is a very wonderful classic. It is a Newbery Honor book. And again, I can see why. This book is just wonderful. This is the 60th anniversary edition. And I just loved the rich storytelling, the description of the island where the wild horses come from and live, the children and grandparents in this story, the different people associated with the horses. It was just wonderful, and you could really visualize everything in this story. So Misty of Chincoteague, if you love children's literature and you love horses, this would definitely be a read or a reread. This is just a wonderful book. Of course, I gave this one 5 stars. The next book I read was The Last Heir to the Blackwood Library, a novel by Hester Fox. This was a really interesting read here. Sort of a thrillery mystery book here, a little bit of a ghost story, lots of intriguing mystery here. It starts out with a woman inheriting Blackwood Abbey that has an amazing library in it. She has lost people in her life to the war. She's kind of all alone, isn't very well off. She inherits the estate as well as the title of lady and is launched into this very intriguing world. Part of the deal with her inheritance is that she has to live at the abbey location here. It's like a large sort of manor house that was once an abbey. It starts out with a backstory from way back in medieval time and then fast forwards to post-World War I. That's the setting of this book, post-World War I. And it's really a bit of a mysterious setting here. You know something's going on, but you're not quite sure what. And the mystery sort of slowly unfolds. You don't know who the good guys are or the bad guys are necessarily right off the bat. You have your suspicions. I gave this book a 4 stars, although a lot of people are rating this book quite a bit lower. I see their point why a lot of people are not finishing this book or don't like it. There are some annoying parts to the main character. She's supposed to be this independent woman, and she makes a lot of really silly errors in judgment, which don't really match up with the independent woman that they're trying to describe here. So that part can be super annoying. Some of the paranormal ghost story aspect of it is a little bit strange and wraps up a little oddly. The reason I gave it a 4 stars is because I really liked the setting. I thought that the backstory was really interesting. I loved the description of the abbey. I loved the description of the library. I love books that take place in and around libraries and ancient libraries and things like that. I love that theme in a book. So that part I really loved. But the other thing that had me rate it high was I couldn't put it down. I just kept reading it. I wanted to know what happened. I read this book in 2 days and just couldn't put it down. So although I see the point of some of the other reviewers' lower stars, I gave this a 4 star because to me it was a really entertaining couple of days and I just thought it was a really interesting read. I would definitely read more in this series if other books came out. It did kind of end pretty well, so I don't necessarily suspect that this is going to have another installment, but it was interesting and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It was a fun read, nothing too difficult or deep. And again, there were some of those issues that could be a little bit annoying, but I just thought it was a fun thing to read. So The Last Heir to the Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. And then my next book is another graphic novel here. I bought this at the same time that I bought the Secret Garden graphic novel. This is Anne of Green Gables. This one is also adapted by Mariah Marsden and illustrated by Brenna Thumler. So this is the Anne of Green Gables graphic novel. And here are some of the images inside. You can see a lot of, pictures here and a few words to explain it. And I'm a big fan of Anne of Green Gables. I read Anne of Green Gables last year. At the end of last year, I believe, is when I finished Anne of Green Gables. I've seen all the shows. I'm a huge fan of the Avonlea series. So I love Anne of Green Gables. I'm a huge fan of the story. So I wanted to give this a try. So knowing the original book and how beautifully it was written, it's one of my favorite books. I thought it could be potentially kind of hard to just put that kind of a book into graphic novel form, especially with how the writing in Anne of Green Gables gives you such an amazing visual picture of Anne of Green Gables' world. So it was kind of a tough order here for this graphic novel, but I actually thought they did a really good job. I thought it was neat. I was able to follow the whole story. Granted, because I've read the story and watched the movies and kind of been around the Anne of Green Gables world, I've even seen the animated television show back when my kids were younger. So I'm very familiar with the story, so obviously I could follow it along pretty well, but I liked it. I thought, again, it was a wonderful way to spend the afternoon. Again, I read this in just like a couple of afternoons, just picked it up, read it with a nice cup of coffee. It was definitely a fun way to spend the afternoon reading through this graphic novel. I know some people are not fans of the artwork in it. I actually was. I really liked it. It was a little weird at first, but I felt like the awkwardness of Anne at first worked with the way that they're drawing the characters in this. It's definitely a different style, very graphic novel style of illustrating, but I liked the colors. I thought that the colors were really rich throughout. And again, I could follow the story very well. Here you can see Anne getting angry at Gilbert there. I actually gave this a 5 stars because for what it is, a graphic novel, I felt that it was a good look at Anne of Green Gables. I thought that it was fun, fun for fans of Anne of Green Gables, fun for children who are just getting introduced. I feel like Anne of Green Gables can be a little daunting for a younger reader, so this would be a great way to introduce Anne of Green Gables to kids. Just a fun, easy thing to read for an enjoyable afternoon. So I really enjoyed the Anne of Green Gables graphic novel here. I would recommend it. Of course, I would say that with hopefully you will read the Anne of Green Gables novel, the original book. That's just, of course, wonderful. But again, this is a fun read. And I think for a graphic novel, this was super fun. So I would recommend Anne of Green Gables, the graphic novel. And then this is another book that is not my standard type of book. So I thought I would get something a little bit out of my comfort zone. This is a manga. I have not read, I don't think I've read many manga books, if any, before. I've probably just thumbed through a few. So this was supposed to be sort of a cottagecore vibe, cute little book about these little people here, like little sort of gnomes or fairies or something like that, woodland creatures. I wasn't quite sure what kind of creatures they were, but that was supposed to be the vibe. I think that this is called Hakume and Mikochi, and this is book 1 by, I'm probably not going to pronounce this correctly, but I will try, Takuto Kashiki. And this is what it looks like here. For me, it was a little bit tricky to know to read it in the form that mangas are read from right to left versus left to right. You do hold the book like this and read it this way. That was a little tricky for me. I think just because I'm a little older, I'm not used to reading manga. My kids thought it was really funny that I had a hard time getting into it. They do read manga and are comfortable reading manga, but it just wasn't my favorite. Also, there was some harsher aspects to it. They did some drinking and gambling, things like that in it, and that's just not the way that I picture cute little creatures, so I wasn't quite sure about that. There were some interesting parts to it, and it was interesting to read a book in this format. So for that, I thought that it was a cool experience. But it isn't my favorite book. I wouldn't read it again. I think I would need a few more tries to get really comfortable with the process, but this book just wasn't the one for me. I read the whole book, I read it fairly quickly, but it never really developed into any bit of a story. I didn't feel like there was an actual story in this book here. I felt like it was just little vignettes of these little creatures' lives, which was interesting. I only gave this a 2 stars, which is pretty low for me. I know other people have rated it higher. Again, I think that just has to do with if you're comfortable with this style of book. I wasn't, and I also just didn't like the content. I think I was hoping for something a little bit cuter, a little bit more, you know, cute little woodland creatures or something like that, and that's not really what this was. And again, for me, there wasn't a story. I was also looking for a bit of a story, kind of get to know the characters a little bit, and really you're just getting like bite-sized looks at their life. So that is this book here. It was interesting to read a manga, Hakume and Mikochi, book 1. So that is the last book that I've finished so far this year. That is 8 books so far. And now I think I'm gonna have a little bit more of my tea and go ahead and open up one of my tea cakes here. They come in these cute little foil wrappers here. Go ahead and unwrap it so you can see what it looks like. Just a yummy little chocolate treat here, chocolatey treat, sort of a cookie cake thing there. I'm going to get a bit of tea here and give this a try and let you know what I think of the dark chocolate Tunnocks tea cake. And then I'll tell you about the current books that I'm reading and what I hope to read in the next couple of months. And these dark chocolate Tunnocks tea cakes are really delicious. They're really light and airy, and the dark chocolate is really delicious. I'm gonna go ahead and save the rest for later, but that was really good. Definitely a fun tea time treat there if you're looking for a fun tea time treat. I think you can order these on Amazon as well. If I can find a link, I will leave that, my affiliate link for these in the description box below. Milk chocolate Tunnocks tea cakes and dark chocolate Tunnocks tea cakes. Really yummy treat here. Okay, another sip of tea and then we'll be on to the books I'm currently reading. Okay. Okay, so the first one that I'm currently reading is The Little Gray Men by B.B. This is a book written in the early 40s about the last gnomes in Britain. I started this as a read for National Garden Gnome Day. I wanted to find something in my library that was good for Gnome Day. It is written by B.B. here, who is a naturalist. He writes many other books about nature and things like that. It is British. It is set in the British countryside. And it is just wonderful. I'm loving this. And I saw this on my bookshelves. It's been one that I've wanted to read for quite some time. So I started this and I just love this. I'm about halfway through. He writes so wonderfully. You can vividly imagine the setting where these little gnomes are having their adventure. And the neat thing about this book, it was written around the time of World War II. So the author didn't want to make this like a sugar-coated fairy story. It is got some harsh reality in it. These are little gnome guys who have quite an adventure. They deal with predators. They hunt, they fish, they build. They get in little scrapes, things like that. And so far, I'm just loving this book here. There is a second one that I will definitely read when I'm done with this. Even though this is a book written for children, I think that it is wonderful for adults as well. The writing is so rich, and the descriptions, again, are just wonderful. You can picture every bit of nature that he is describing. If you love nature and that sort of thing. I love nature. I love observing nature and things like that. You can get a lot out of this book. It's also really interesting to read British literature and the description of the British landscape. And also just a fun adventure story about these gnomes. So a very exciting adventure story. I am eager to continue reading it and see what happens. And in the next book vlog, I will have to let you know what I think of the story when I'm finished. I just love it though. I have a feeling it's going to be a 5-star read. This is just wonderful. The next book that I am currently reading is by Laura Childs. This is Plum Tea Crazy. This was supposed to be a book that I was reading in the spring. I picked the cover just because it was pretty. It's talking about plum season and plum flowers, plum blossoms, things like that. And so I thought that would be perfect for spring. But again, I didn't get much reading done in the early spring, so I thought I would go ahead and pick it up now. It's been in my to-be-read pile for quite some time, and I wanted a good cozy mystery, and I wanted a break from reading some of the cozy mystery series that I'm currently reading. Although I have read other tea shop mystery books, I haven't read any for quite some time. So again, this is Plum Tea Crazy by Laura Childs, and this is a tea shop mystery. Again, a cozy mystery. It starts out with someone being murdered by an antique weapon. So that is the mystery, and the main character here, she runs a tea shop. And she's also, of course, very good at solving mysteries with some of the other characters in this book who help her out at both her tea shop and with solving mysteries. I love the main character. She's intelligent. I love the way she's business-minded and runs her tea shop. I love all the little information in this book about tea. It comes with recipes that I always think is really, really fun too, and kind of talks a little bit about, you know, different tea recipes and things that they're serving in the shop, which as a side to the mystery is always really, really fun, I think. And the mystery itself is really intriguing so far. I'm a little bit more than halfway through. It's a quick read. I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely holding my attention. This is the book that I brought with to read on the beach, and I really loved that. I took a couple of hours laying out on the beach just to do some nice, relaxing reading. It was really, really fun. So this book, Plum Tea Crazy, it's a really good cozy mystery. If you like cozy mysteries, I think you'd really enjoy this one. And again, I'll update you what I think when I'm finished. The next book is a book I started today. Next Monday is Midsummer Night. And I have been wanting to read Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream for midsummer for quite a couple of years now. So I finally decided to grab this copy that I've had on my shelf for quite some time. I think I got this back when I was in high school. It's got a copyright of 1990, this edition. I really enjoyed reading Shakespeare quite a bit as a teenager. So I think that this copy is either from my teen years or my early 20s. I've had it for quite some time. It's a really pretty edition. It's got a lot of beautiful artwork. You can see some of the artwork in here. So that's really nice to go ahead and read a version of A Midsummer Night's Dream with the artwork in it. This is illustrated by Arthur Rackham. I'll give you another close-up look at this. I don't know if this is still an available edition, but I'm sure you could find it used. So I will be reading A Midsummer Night's Dream. I'm about a third of the way through. I thought that I would read the book, and then I have a couple movies saved. I think one from the BBC and one that came out in, I think, 1999, late 90s, of A Midsummer Night's Dream. So I'd like to read the book and then watch the shows in honor of actual midsummer. I love summer and I'm excited that it's midsummer, so I thought I would have fun reading a Shakespeare book. I hope to start reading a bit more Shakespeare coming up here in the future. So that's what I'm currently reading. And like I said, I stopped off at the beach this past week and I had fun reading on the beach, and I had fun visiting a little bookshop. The bookshop is actually called Beach Books. It's in Seaside, Oregon. Got this little bag here, Peace, Love, Books. It's a fun little shop. So before I share with you the book I picked out, here is a quick look at my day at the beach and a little bit of the inside of Beach Books Bookstore. I thought it would be fun to go ahead and check out this bookshop. In Seaside, Oregon, there are a lot of wonderful shops, and this particular shop, the Beach Books shop, is kind of on the further end, and I'm usually a little closer to the beach when I'm walking through some of the stores, and then when I'm going down to actual Seaside Beach. So I don't often get to this bookshop. It's actually been quite a few years. So I wanted to be sure to stop in and look around at their books. Set up really cute. Like I said, it's just a cozy little tiny bookshop with lots of good choices. They had a lot of books on display with book recommendations. So they had books with little like note cards in them that gave the opinions of some of the people at the bookshop. I'm assuming like workers at the bookshop or other people associated with the bookshop have given book recommendations. So I thought that I would choose one of those books. They had a nice big display of a bunch of different books in the store there, and I chose this one. I decided to not choose a book that was on any of my lists. I've always got a pretty big book list going of books that I'm trying to hunt down and things like that, but I just wanted to pick a fresh book that I hadn't heard of just because I was in this bookshop and it was neat that they had so many recommendations. So I picked this book here. It looks like it's a bit of a thriller. It says, "She thought she had her life back. She was wrong." And it says, "That's Not My Name." And this is by Megan Lally. I might be saying that right, Megan Lally. That's Not My Name. So it's a bit of a thriller. And again, this is a new book for me. I haven't heard of it, so I don't know if it's a thriller or a YA or what it is. But the back says this: "Shivering and bruised, a teen wakes up on the side of a dirt road with no memory of how she got there or who she is. The police don't know where she came from until a frantic man arrives at the station. He's been searching for her for hours. He has her school ID, her birth certificate, and even family photos. He is her father. Her name is Mary, or so he says." And then it goes on to say, "When Lola slammed her car door and stormed off into the night, Drew thought they just needed some time to cool off, except Lola disappeared. Now his friends, the sheriff, the whole town are convinced Drew murdered his girlfriend. Forget proving he's innocent. He needs to find her. The longer Lola is missing, the fewer leads there are to follow and the more danger they are both in." So that just sounds really intriguing. Sounds like there's some amnesia going on here and definitely some mystery, perhaps a thriller. Definitely looks a bit thrilling here, the cover does. And this is not my normal vibe for summer read. I usually read a little bit lighthearted things, lighthearted cozy mysteries, children's literature, things like that, classics. So I think this is going to be really fun. I'm going to go ahead and start reading this when I'm done with Plum Tea Crazy Cozy Mystery, and I'll let you know what I think. And then I also picked up a fun bookmark here. I'm not sure you can see this. Let's see if I can make it do its little lenticular thing. It shows the different phases of the moon. My grandkids love the moon. They look for the moon every night when they're over and they're on their way home. That's how we get them out to the cars. We say, oh, let's go see if the moon's out. And they love the moon. My grandkids are pretty young still. The oldest is 4 and the younger 2 are 2. They're both 2 years old and they just love looking at the moon. So I figured if they saw this cool bookmark, they would get a real kick out of that. So I'm excited to share that with my grandkids as well. So a new book and a new bookmark. That was a really fun visit to the Beach Books bookshop. Then I've got a pretty good stack here of books I'd like to read coming up. So this is my TBR pile here for June and July. I'm starting a study of fairy tales. So to kick off that, I would like to read Tolkien's On Fairy Stories. So this is sort of a more studious read here. So it's Tolkien's essay on fairy stories. And I love reading fairy tales, and I've studied fairy tales like I've mentioned before in the past. So I thought that I would give this a read. For a more studious book there. Then I'd like to read the next installment of the Anne of Green Gables series, Anne of Avonlea. So we'll see if I can give this one a go. Then I've got quite a few books here in this stack that are continuations of series that I'm currently reading. This is the next book that I have to read in the Cottage Tales of Beatrix Potter, The Tale of Cuckoo Brow Wood. I love the Cottage Tales of Beatrix Potter. This is a cozy mystery series that centers around Beatrix Potter as well as the little animals in it. And the little animals have their own part and talk, and I just absolutely love it. So this is by Susan Wittig Albert. And this is an absolutely wonderful series if you love Beatrix Potter as well as cozy mysteries. So I'm excited to get into the next one here. Again, The Tale of Cuckoo Brow Wood. And then I have another Beacon Bake Shop mystery book. This is Murder at the Blueberry Festival. So sort of a summer themed mystery book here. I think this is the 3rd book of the Beacon Bake Shop mystery, and this is the only one that I haven't read so far. Again, I started off with the Halloween one, and then I went back to the start, and then I also read her newest release. So I have to read this middle one here, which I'm excited about. Murder at the Blueberry Festival by Darcy Hannah. Fun, cozy mystery. And then I thought that I would read the next book in the Misty of Chincoteague series. This is called Sea Star, Orphan of Chincoteague, also by Marguerite Henry. So another horse book here. I just want to read through this series. It was such a wonderful read, the last one, that I'm excited to read through the rest of that series. And then another cozy mystery. This one's really fun. This is a Shady Hollow mystery. This is the recent book in the Shady Hollow mystery series. I've read the other 3 as well as the 2 novellas. This is by Juno Black, which is, I believe, a writing partnership. Yes, it is. It's by these 2 women here. They write this book together, this series of books together. And I've loved this series so far. This is a cozy mystery series that takes place in Shady Hollow. And Shady Hollow is like a town, a little village of actual woodland animals. And the actual woodland animals are the characters in this book. And it's pretty fun to read it from that perspective. It's just such a fun cozy mystery series. I definitely recommend it to anyone who loves cozy mysteries and loves like animals and things like that. It's just so fun. So I'm super eager to read Twilight Falls. I thought that I was going to read this right when it came out at the end of last year, and I can't believe I still haven't read it. So this is definitely on my list. This will be a good book to bring down to the beach or to the river. I believe that will be a fun one to do that with. Then I have this one here by Lauren Wolk, Beyond the Bright Sea. This is an award-winning book for historical fiction here. She writes Echo Mountain and Wolf Hollow. I've read Echo Mountain and I just loved it. This is like a middle grade children's book. It's quite a thick one though here. And I really enjoyed her last one. This one is about a 12-year-old girl who has lived her whole life on a tiny little isolated island in Massachusetts. And it says here she begins to become curious about the world around her. So I'm sure it's that story. I don't know much else about it. But again, I really loved Echo Mountain by Lauren Wolk. So I'm excited to read Beyond the Bright Sea. I thought that I would choose an oceany, sea-themed one, again, because I love the ocean and visiting the ocean. This, of course, takes place on the East Coast instead of the West Coast, but it's still about the ocean. I think it'll be a really fun one to read. Then this is a book I've wanted to read for quite some time. I love Nancy Drew mysteries and other cozy mysteries and things like that. So I thought that Trixie Belden, The Secret of the Mansion, would be a really fun one to read. This was originally written in 1948. Here we have Trixie Belden. This is a classic, a children's book here, Trixie Belden. And again, I think it's in the same vein as like Nancy Drew mysteries, but we will see. Trixie Belden, I've always wanted to read one of these. And so I'm eager to read this one this summer as well. Looks like a lot of fun. And then the last book on my list for June and July is Wildwood by Colin Malloy and illustrated by Carson Ellis. I actually started this book a while ago and I don't know why I put it down. It was really fun. I was really enjoying reading it. This takes place in Portland, Oregon. I live about an hour outside of Portland and visit Portland from time to time. And so I've always wanted to finish reading this Wildwood book here by Colin Malloy, and the whole series. I have the whole series over here in my library, and I would like to read the whole series. It just looks right up my alley. So I decided to restart this since it's been a while since I, for some reason, put it down. I do that from time to time. I'll start too many books and then I'll put one down and kind of forget about it. And then it's been so long when I come back around to it that I really need to start over again. So Wildwood, I'm excited to read this book here. Portland is surrounded by some nice wooded areas, so we'll have to read this Wildwood. I'm excited to hopefully get through this one now, and then I'll let you know what I think about that and see if we want to go ahead and read the rest of that series. So that is my pretty big TBR list for June and July, as well as the books that I'm finishing up and the books that I've read so far this year. That was a lot of books to talk about and catch up with for the year. I do hope to share book vlogs a little bit more frequently here at Snapdragon Hollow, as well as some of my other crafty videos and things like that I am working on getting filmed for you. And I hope you enjoyed hearing about all the books that I've read so far this year and the books that I'm currently reading and about to read. If you've read any of these books or have any book suggestions, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead now and finish up my tea time and get a little bit of reading done. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.